Hello, my lovelies, and welcome back to Sondering Tarot, or if you're new here, hi, hello. Welcome to part 4 of my 22 favorites Major Arcana cards. This is going to be over the Hermit card through the Justice card for today, so let's jump right in. Alright, and hopefully my crystal bowl there is not blocking the last card. Alright, we have 4 in total that I had pulled out and decided ranked higher than everyone else for the Hermit card. We have the Soul Cats Tarot, the Bloody Tears Tarot, the Tarot of Dragons, and the Out of Hands Tarot. Alright, so 2 are mass market, 2 are indie. I have an affinity for cats, and this cat looks so much like he's pondering on a grass knoll. It's adorable, it's cute, and he looks more like a gray striped tabby, which I have a long-haired gray tabby that is part Maine Coon, so I really love this card for the association. I'm sorry. And plus, it's pretty. The Bloody Tears Tarot. I love the medium in this particular deck. It's done with black, red, and blue ink pen. And the Hermit literally is a solitary figure, a shut-in, as you will. And this just, to me, looks like a wizard that's shut himself in to gain knowledge. I love the use of the owl here. And artistically, I love it. And in fact, I really hate the Hermit card in the tarot. The traditional Hermit is really not a card I can connect to. It's kind of a rather dull card for the Major Arcana, so I kind of like the little difference in scenery. Tarot of Dragons. You see the star over here, and usually the Hermit is carrying a lantern with a star in it. In this case, it's a pearl or an orb with lights in it. I do love the effect of what Sean McKenzie decided to do for her version of the Hermit. He's usually on a mountaintop. You do see a cliff here, so it's more of the top, but the dragon's tail is literally wrapped around the highest point. Mountains are usually obstacles in the tarot, so the fact that the dragon, the Hermit itself, is wrapped around the obstacle in solitary trying to gain enlightenment, I really like this version of the Hermit for that reason. And then we have the Out of Hands Tarot, somebody who's literally either cramming for a test or basically lost in a library, shut themselves in with books, trying to gain knowledge, enlightenment, and you do see the lantern. So this is the enlightenment path without the mountainside. It's a little bit differently depicted. It's more modern, but it's a Hermit card that I can really get into and relate to enough that it doesn't bother me with the traditional meaning. So let's move right on to our next one, which should be the Wheel of Fortune. And I do have more than 3 on this one. They're in no particular order. This is another card that oftentimes can be rather dull to me, just because it's a wheel. You see a circle of pattern, and that's usually what you're given, usually with all the elements. And I decided on these 4, and some of them are for completely different reasons. We have the Soul Cats Tarot, Game of Thrones, the Forest of Enchantment, and the Mermaid Tarot. Okay, the Soul Cats Tarot right here. I love the fact that we have the whole fame and fortune, good luck tie to it. I mean, we literally have our roulette wheel with chips. The little mices are really a cute touch. It's an adorable card. It takes a different aspect on the Wheel of Fortune, and I love that. Now, the Wheel of Fortune from the Game of Thrones Tarot right here. You do have some of the main houses in it, as well as Peter Baelish's sigil in the middle. So it's far as, you know, all the elements going around the wheel, that is kind of represented here. You do have spokes on the wheel, usually equated to the Wheel of Fortune. But there's something that, if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, that Peter Baelish says about Game of Thrones. I mean, Cersei Lannister says in the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die. But Peter Baelish says that when you fight for the, you know, throne, it's chaos. And chaos is a ladder. Some climb it and fail. Some choose not to climb it. And some succeed, etc. He gives a whole mantra, a whole speech on it. And parts of that usually pop into my head when I use this particular Wheel of Fortune. That yes, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. Sometimes you literally grab one of the spokes and you try to turn it the way that you want. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. So it's an ongoing process. Sometimes you have influence, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. It's the whole thing of karma. And I think that's very prudent for this card. It's not necessarily the artwork attached to it, but the meaning behind the card and what Peter Baelish says that makes this one a little bit more relatable to me in certain readings than it normally would. And for the Force of Enchantment, I love that we have little vines going in and out of these spokes. Believe it or not, they're all connected. So the Enchanter's Wheel, Fortune's Wheel, knowing that there's fate, there's will, the will of a person that can influence things. There's all these things moving all at the same time, but they're all interconnected, and the wheel keeps on spinning in either direction. I love this version just for that. And the Mermaid Tarot is a little bit more of a traditional. I love the fact that it's the wheel on a sunken ship. So it may look broken, it may look rusted, it may look like it doesn't work, but it still has the ability to turn, it still has the ability to keep on going. You just have to grab a hold of one of the spokes and turn it either way. And because it is a sunken ship, yes, sometimes things will not go in your favor. Normally, I find, yeah, the traditional is very filled with symbols and elements, but it's kind of all the same. So these are a little bit different enough to me that I tend to favor these cards over others out of different tarot decks. So let's move right on into the Justice card. And that'll be the last card that we're going to cover for today's video. And in no particular order, I do have 4 of these that I like. And for, as you can see, these are not like a traditional Justice card. It's another one where I feel more drawn towards a different approach to the Justice card. I mean, don't get me wrong, Justice does equate to me. I mean, you give me Lady Justice with her sword and blindfold and her scales, and I totally get it. However, as much as I love the scales, as you can clearly see, I like them approached in a slightly different way if possible. So we have the Mermaid Tarot, we have the Lightseers Tarot, we have the Myths and Legends Tarot, and then we have the Mystical Cats Tarot here at the end. So scales are everything. And I love this from the Mermaid Tarot because we have scrolls on one side and then we have a sword on the other. So it's that the pen is mightier than the sword because the scrolls right here are weighing heavier than the sword. So balancing our words versus our thoughts, our ideas, versus what we actually put out into the world in the shape of a scroll, our knowledge. Knowledge is key. Know twice as much as more as what you speak. I love that. And I suppose there could be the argument with this card of lawful action versus unlawful action. So scales, ultimately, yes, very much justice for me. I relate very heavily to it. And with the Light Seers Tarot right here, I love the fact that you see the double-edged sword, or in case that it's actually two swords crossed, but it represents a double-edged sword, cause and effects, karma, that there's times where you're up, and then when it's in reverse, there's times when you're down, so it looks gloomy versus lighthearted, and I like the duality of how that's approached. The Myths and Legends Tarot right here, I love the fact that Taylor decided to use Anubis. In Egyptian mythology, when you die, they actually take your heart and they weigh it against a feather here. And of course that determines where you go. It's best if your heart is actually lighter than a feather. So good karma, doing good deeds, lightens your heart. You've healed yourself, you feel lighter, you're not overly burdened, etc. will make your heart lighter. All the good, cause and effect, being just in your actions will make your heart weigh less than this itty-bitty feather over here. And I like that concept. I like the approach. I've always kind of liked that myth in Egyptian mythology. So kudos to Taylor for equating this particular one with Anubis for the Justice card. I love it. I really love it. I know it's darker than the rest as far as artwork and media, but I do love the mythology that is associated with it. So it stays in this favorites pile. And the Mythical Cats Tarot, I love that the rename on this Justice card is Consequences, cause and effect. You literally see a cat playing with a ball of string and gets tangled in it. So playing too rough, not paying attention to our actions and the consequences of it, we get entangled, and it is of our own doing. I very love that message. So this is a completely different approach for a Justice card versus, you know, karma. We have the cause and effect version of it right here in this card. All right, and with that, my lovelies, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Thank you so much for watching. I will have part 5, which should be the Hangman through the Temperance card, coming up soon. Look out for that. So once again, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.